Hello again. In this tutorial I want to say something about handling combined data files, that is files where we have the nodal data, coordinate data and displacements all in the same place, so that we can work with external tools such as shape modeling tools where there are kind of many solves and we want to kind of interpolate between them, and we might want to then re-import the results of that sort of interpolation back into ParaView. So I've started ParaView here, and plugin is not automatically there. I think if you're going to use it a lot, it's worth clicking this auto load facility, and there we have that, so that it loads up automatically as you start ParaView. And if I load, what I'm going to load here is a demo model from the remodeling exercise and tutorial that I've shown elsewhere. As a simple kind of demo, and it's fairly easy to see what's going on and whether we're getting back to the same kind of thing. So here are our sort of starting set of files. We have the script and the model file, and the materials and constraints, and an example solution file for placing this model under load. If I'm not in this directory, I've not started ParaView in this directory, so I'm just going to grab that directory here and copy and paste that into this space. So if I click enter, it will automatically go to that directory, and we will be working in that directory now. So if I just run through this and load the model very quickly along with the displacements to show kind of what was going off in this example. You should be able to see now if we switch the P1 strains, and something that we can do to visualize is create this warp by vector tool, this thing here, just to sort of see what's going on. So it's very exaggerated, but this is kind of what's happening to this poor O character shape as it's getting squashed. So if I want to introduce this idea of working with combined models, now the way that it's easiest to do that with ParaView is to allow changing certain parameters as you're importing these files at these two different stages. If you're working with ParaView 5, you'll notice that they've merged these kind of properties and information windows into tabs alongside, so it might be a bit difficult sometimes to find out where you are in these places. This is a great information pane for once you've imported something, but it's this properties area where you're allowed to kind of set stuff. And generally what happens if you set something inside here, it either happens automatically, or particularly if it's part of the loading process or something like that, then it actually reruns that whole step. But for my purposes here now, I want to just kind of go backwards. So if I get rid of the warp and the strains, and now I want to go to the changing these parameters. So if I look down, what I want to do is to generate node coordinates, and it will save them to this XYZ file as the bubble help says there. So if I click check that box basically, and I click apply again, it basically reloads the whole thing from scratch. You can see stuff happening in this box at the moment here, but it's just a kind of distraction, so I'll shift it over, and basically we should be back to the very starting model, except with one important exception, is that now we've generated this extra file as we were going through loading the model, which is basically just the nodal coordinates for the model. In the first place, our model file just contains indices for the voxels, so there are no coordinates up until this moment. It's only when the model's actually imported that the nodal coordinates get generated within this display. You can kind of see what that looks like here with that option, which is a bit distracting, so I'll switch it off. But we're now back to this situation where we've got our model loaded, but we have this coordinates file. So how do we mix the two together, the displacements and the nodal coordinates? Well, I've allowed an option in VoxFE to do that if we import the displacements file. Okay, so if we reload this, kind of as we did before, but this time instead of clicking apply straight away, and notice I've left auto apply off here, which is something that I only really ever have auto apply on when I'm doing things like clipping or trying to view from different positions or something like that. So I want to be able to just update very quickly. For big things where I'm loading things, it's a good idea to leave auto apply off, and then it allows you to sort of select options and to think about what it is that you're doing at this kind of important step. So if I click this option here, so I'm loading in displacements and I want it to create a combined model file. So if I check that and click apply, then all being well, everything will look the same as it did before, but now we should have this combined file where we've generated, we have these nodal coordinates overlaid with displacements. So that gets that part of it. We've now got our nodal coordinates, we've got our combined data. What we might do is generate a whole bunch of these sort of combined files for different solutions, and I'm told anyway, then work that through shape modeling tools to kind of interpolate in between. So what we might do is generate a new combined file that we want to re-import into ParaView VoxFE so that we can view the strains for those files. So in that case, we end up with a new combined file. Well, what to do with that? We load our model, and we have another option now to actually load the combined file, which is going to be this one. And again, being careful with our options, we look down, we can see that the input type here is wrong, so we want to change this to combined model and displacements. And I think if you'll also notice that these, in some ways, these options are kind of mutually exclusive. The way that I've got round that in this version of VoxFE is to make it so that if you try to select this as well, it will just be ignored, because you already have a combined model file to begin with, and you don't really want to be overwriting it. So in this case, if I click apply here, I should take the combined data file and regenerate the strains, which hopefully will look very much the same as what we had before. And if I run this warp thing again, and we should get the very same effect as we had before. And really there's only one more thing to add to that really concludes the demo, is that what happens as a byproduct is that because you imported this combined file, VoxFE thinks that you might want to have a separate displacement file for working with that particular solution in future. So next time you can just import this file as a simple BMU type file. So that option actually is in here. So instead of importing that as a combined file, you can then import this as a ParaBMU solver type file, just for the sake of future working, really. And that really concludes this demo. So thank you very much for listening.